Coleman Madison, Elliott, Gavan, Hall, Harbison, Hollis, Lawrence.
Slower.
Present.
That's Ms. Coleman calling me. Can we start over, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, why don't we start over, and if you will, let's go a little bit slower so that the folks online have a chance to respond.
Allen.
Gerald.
Here. Baker. Chambliss.
Here.
Justine. Coleman Madison. Elliott. Gavan.
Here.
Hall. Harbison. Hollis. Lawrence. McCampbell. Marcus. Milson. Paramore. Price.
Here.
Schofield. Sells. Sessions.
Here.
Shaver.
Here.
Shedd.
Here.
Singleton. Smitherman. Wagner. Wilcox. Wood. Here.
Okay, we have a quorum, and we will continue to monitor the online participants as we go, and those that come into the room as well. So maybe toward the end, we will call out anybody that we have do not have as present, just to make sure that we have everybody accurately reported. With that, we will go into old business. The first item of business is election of a chair and vice chair. And note the new criteria in Act 2023-534. The first thing that we will do is we will elect the chair, and this chair will serve from January 1 of 2024 for 2 years. And then the vice chair that we elect today will serve the 2 years following that per the new protocol. And that is for two reasons, as you all will recall. One is to provide a little bit better continuity over 2 years instead of one, but then also to have a continuity across the quadrennium. So all of that will be accomplished. So with that, I would open, yes, sir.
Is this a House Senate flip on the chair? Vice Chair?
Yes, yes. The election for chair at this point will be of a House member. And then the election of vice chair will be of a senator. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion, Clyde Chambliss as chair.
Thank you, sir, but this has to be a House member.
Mr.
Yes,
Chairman.
and then vice chair.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Representative.
I nominate Representative Wilcox.
Okay.
Chair.
Is there a second of that nomination? Is there any other nomination? Move the nominations be closed. Is there a second? Second. The nominations are closed. Congratulations, Vice Chair Wilcox, incoming Chair Wilcox.
Thank y'all so much. I appreciate your confidence, and I'll try to do everything I can to make sure we move the committee forward.
Thank you. Okay, Madam Vice Chair, I will give the gavel to you if you will do the election for the chair since you're the House.
All right, I'd like to open the nominations for the co-chair from the Senate. Senator Allen. All right, Senator Allen represents Senator Chambliss, thank you. Seconded by Baker. Oh, it has to be a Senate person. Singleton. All right, move the nominations be closed. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, you can have the gavel back.
Thank you. And thank you, colleagues, for your continued support. I appreciate that.
Senator Linda Coleman Madison
Yes, ma'am.
Is now joining.
Okay. Senator Coleman Madison has joined us.
Yes.
Okay. All right, the first item of new business, I probably should have put under old business because the allocation plan was given to us at the last meeting. Are there any comments or questions about that? If not, then that will just stay with the DOT for implementation. Okay, hearing none, we will go on to the ALDOT Department requested budget for FY 24-25. Mr. Austin.
Sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Apologize in advance. I'm fighting a little bit of a cold, so if I cough, y'all please forgive me.
We'll know you're just human then, right?
So what you have in front of you, the membership, is the fiscal year 2024 budget. It looks very similar to what we've done in the past 4 years for this committee. It talks about our anticipated funds. We'll run through those. The legacy programs of the federal funding through the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act for this year is projected to be $963.5 million approximately. The new programs, those 5 program funds we've discussed in the past that serve as new programs, a little over $116 million. I do want to remind y'all, as in every other year for the past 3 years, we are still subject to a continuing resolution. We are currently under a continuing resolution until the 17th of November. And so if Congress does not take action to either extend that continuing resolution or provide an appropriation for the rest of the fiscal year, we will be in a situation where federal funds will be frozen at that time until such point as an appropriation is made. So we did get a continuing resolution to mid-November. After that, we have to wait and see. So all those funds, basically, we got about a 6 to 7 week continuing resolution, so we get about 6/52 of our funding in both of those programs is the way that it's generally applied from Federal Highway Administration. State Public Road and Bridge funds, we're projecting maybe around $540 million. Rebuild Alabama, so we do have the first year of the indexing that went into effect, $220 million this year. Appalachian Development Highway, we've talked about that in the past. That's special money designated for certain corridors that meet the requirements of the Appalachian Development Highway program, a little under $74 million. And aeronautics, $75 million. They did get a reauthorization for this year for aeronautics, so they're good for the year. And so that represents about $1.98 billion total for the anticipated funding. The appropriations and transfers out of the State Public Road and Bridge Fund. So ALEA, with the removal of the $23.5 million this fiscal year, is down to $1.2 million. The Industrial Access Road and Bridge is $11 million. County engineer support salary, $8.6. State personnel, or excuse me, revenue, just under $3. State personnel, $2.85. $500,000 for state park maintenance and $125,000 for captive county insurance. So grand total 4-year appropriations and transfers out of the State Public Road and Bridge Fund is about $27.3 million.
Mr. Austin?
Yes, sir.
The $1.2 million that still goes to ALEA,
Yes.
Is there any rhyme or reason or specifics for that, or is that just the way it come out of the sausage making process?
So that was actually goes back to Act 2021-365 that requires us to provide that. It was the distribution of net proceeds from license tax and registration fees. There's a requirement in that particular bill, 2021-365, that requires $1,200,000 shall be distributed to the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency each fiscal year to the credit of the Public Safety Fund to be used for enforcement of state traffic and motor vehicle laws. So the 23.5 was in a different section. When that was repealed, it took that out, but this one is still in effect.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir. Rebuild Alabama Act.
Mr. Austin?
Yes.
Senator Allen?
On that 1.2, is that any of those funds are allocated for training, any training for the officers?
I defer that to to Aaliyah for that question. We're required to provide that. How they utilize that, Senator, it says it's for equipment. How they may use it or break down, I'm not able to answer that for you.
That's good enough. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Rebuild Alabama Act appropriations. So ATRIP 2 is about 40 million this year. Local grant program is projected at about 15, and then the county federal aid exchange that we've discussed in the past, 26.8. So the appropriations out of the Rebuild Alabama Act is just under 82 million. Second page, we do a breakdown of the federal funds. So about 130.5 million is dedicated to aid in local governments. The county federal aid balances is basically zeroed out. There's about $460,000 left. So we've just about finished the counties in the federal aid system. What little bit is left is just the counties have left it there to cover overruns of projects that are not closed out yet. So
When will we expect that to be zero in the next year or so?
it depends on how quickly the counties can close those projects out, Senator. If they close them out, we close them out as quickly as they provide us the information that allows us to do that. So as quickly
Certainly a short period of
shortly.
time.
Yes, sir. That's right. Garvey Bond ATRIP payment, 63.8. The CBD Garvey Bond payments is 47. Safety is programmed to be 65.8 million this year. And starting with safety, working our way through are some of the legacy programs that we've discussed in the past. Interstate maintenance, 180 million. State route resurfacing, 232. System enhancement, 134. Bridge replacement, just under 91 million. Statewide planning is a little over 19 million. And these last five are those new programs and not the legacy. Carbon reduction is about 25.7. Protect about 28.5 million. The bridge formula is 45 million, it's the same amount we get every year. That does not change during the life of the IIJA. Pardon me. NEVI, the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program, is just under 17 million. And just a note on there to remind you that ADECA is serving as the lead for NEVI. And then ferry boat and terminals is about 155,000. And so that adds up to the total federal allocation of about 1.08 billion.
Representative Wilcox.
On the ferries, with our Bridge in Alabama roadshow this year, some of the needs at the Gee's Bend ferry would be for additional plugs and an extension cord, if you will, for the electric ferry. Would part of this will be funding that, or?
It could be, Representative. I dug into this a little bit because we had talked about it previously. We have a program or a plan for addressing needs at both of our ferries. Unfortunately, the cost is about $2.1 million a year for us to operate both ferries. The toll revenue that we receive combined from both ferries on average is about 150 to 160,000. So what we get in toll revenue and sharing, now that doesn't include maintain them, and that the Hornblower Marine maintains both of those. We have a contract with them, and so some of the toll revenue is used to keep it serviced, but any additional revenue there's a cost share mechanism for that. Our portion of that is averaging about 150 to 100.
Well, I just noticed that the electric vehicle infrastructure program had a lot of money, so I would think, is there a way to apply for that, for the plugs at least? Any cost associated with the ferry?
I'd defer that to ADEC to answer that question for you, since they administer that program, but that amount is set in the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act constitutionally through Congress. So that amount that comes to Alabama is set. What they can use it for is supposed to be for electric vehicles. I don't know if ferries would qualify. It's a valid question. I just don't know the answer.
Maybe they need to charge an electric vehicle while they go.
While they're charging this. But that might be an option.
Representative Lawrence.
I just had a comment. You said it was just for electric vehicles because the ferry at Gee's Bend is all electric. Is that right? Yeah.
It is.
Okay.
It has been. It was converted in, I think, 19 or 20 Representative Lawrence?
I hear it's a vehicle.
I hear where you're coming from, but again, I can send a message to ADECA. I deal with, or I interact with their people that do this and ask that question, but we're not involved with it directly since they're administrative.
Mr. Chairman, would it be appropriate for us to send a letter from the Joint Transportation Committee just asking what some of those needs, since it's the only electric ferry in the Western Hemisphere, as I understand, see if we could utilize some of those monies and not come out of any road funds.
And then we can just send a letter to ADECA, so if you would make a note of that for us.
And then the big item that we learned on the bridge in Alabama is that one of the ferries at Dauphin Island is getting on long in the tooth, and it's the much smaller of the two, which makes the operations not quite as efficient. So I know that's a large expense.
It is.
And something that takes a couple of years to plan. So
That's right.
Has that planning started?
It has, Representative. There is a plan in place, so we try to maintain the existing ships for as reasonably long a period of time as we can until they just become, it becomes not cost prohibitive to do that. I think 2 to 3 more years is probably what we're looking at right now based on what it's going to cost. The last one that we did was over $10 million, and so they're rather expensive, especially if you go to the larger ones, which we did the last time, in order to be able to capture the RVs and stuff that we were not able to capture in the past. So that one is able to do that, and we try to keep it in service during the busy time. So, we do, as you know, we do a rotation and service them. So we try to have that larger one in service in the peak times where we have a lot of RVs and all. But we do have a plan to replace the older one, but it will take a few more years to get to that.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, for those of y'all that weren't able to make that particular leg of the bridge in Alabama, it's impressive the amount of ridership that the Dauphin Island Ferry has, and it not only serves as a transportation mode, but it promotes tourism, which we know funds a lot of the state. So I'd be very interested to make sure that we keep that going and upgrade that equipment as soon as we can. And it was mentioned that perhaps we could apply for some funding if we gave it electric/diesel hybrid. So I don't know if that's even physically possible for that, but any unique funding opportunities that we could take advantage of, I'd be in favor.
Well, the ferry boat money that's in the IIJA, there is a discretionary portion of that. It's not a very large number, and we're trying to determine if that's just for O&M or if it's just for capital outlay for improving the landing areas, the ships, those kind of things. So we're looking at that, but we're not sure. I don't know that they've seen anything out on that one yet. If they have, we haven't seen it.
And then my final plea on that is that we have some fine shipbuilding companies in the state of Alabama. So whereas if we could get it competitively built and within the confines of the state of Alabama, that'd be a bonus as well to create jobs in that fashion.
Well, if we use federal funds on it, we got to competitively bid it. But if they can be the low bid.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Okay.
Continue, please.
Next page on the State Public Road and Bridge Fund. So you show a breakdown of where we utilize those funds that are allocated to ALDOT, about $176.5 million for match. Almost $9 million total for the match requirements for the Garvey bond programs. Several maintenance programs, state routine, bridge, roadway traffic, all those add up to about $195 million. State construction is about $22 million. Administrative overhead, that's a personnel and fringe costs that we're not eligible to recover through our federal aid program, is about $95 million. Insurance and maintenance plans is $1.5 million. State comptroller, about $600,000. The Division of Procurement is $250,000. Risk management, $2.3 million approximately. Other equipment, $12. Land and buildings is about $9. So that subtotals is about $512.7. The appropriations from the first page that we talked about earlier, the $27.3, brings you to the grand total of $540. And then the last portion is the Rebuild Alabama Act, about $14.2 million for federal aid fund matching, and then just an even distribution is what we're planning for, but we'll just have to wait and see how that works out for both congestion relief and economic development at about $62 million. That subtotal is 138.2, and with the appropriations from the first page at 81.8, that adds up to your 220 million. And that is the budget for this year, Mr. Chair.
Are there comments or questions? Okay. As with the fund allocation, this is presented ahead of time for us to look at. So if you have comments or questions between now and the next meeting, certainly direct them directly to Mr. Austin or his staff, Mr. Cooper, however as appropriate. So with that, anything else on that particular issue, Mr. Austin?
That's it from AlDOT.
Okay. While you're there, and then I'm going to go back to the Transportation Institute Bridge Project. I skipped that inadvertently, but while you're there, let's go ahead. The last item, municipal connecting links, which are AlDOT municipal jointly maintained roads. Can you give us, I know I've talked, but just get us all up to speed, maybe give us a brief overview of what this is, kind of how it came about, and we'll go from there.
Be glad to. So there was actually legislation passed, don't hold me to the year, I think it was 48 or 49, that has been in place since then that designates certain routes inside of municipal boundaries as municipal connecting links. And what that means is it's typically a road that is part of a local system, but for one reason or another, a state route or U.S. route designation overlays that section of the road. So a state or U.S. route may come into Montgomery, in this case, and then overlay across the top of a local street, and then when it gets outside of town, it diverges or goes in a different direction. Where our state route overlays a city street or a county road, we are responsible for certain aspects of that road, and the city or county is responsible for other aspects. We do not own the road. We're a tenant on the road in most cases. The city or county maintains the right-of-way. We're required to maintain the road from typically back of curb to back of curb in most cases, because there's usually a curb and gutter section in most city and county populated roads. And so we're responsible for the general maintenance and upkeep of that road, but that's it. We do not own the road. Any specific changes that are made inside of that road that a city or county wants to make, they coordinate with us and we're aware of it, but we generally, when we do a resurfacing on a particular, if we were going to do a resurface on US 31 and a section of it was in a municipal link, we would include that in our project, address all of it at one time, but general maintenance and upkeep of the road, keeping limbs cleared and trimmed and all those kind of things are still the responsibility of the local. We simply have the responsibility of maintaining the road from back of curb to back of curb inside those limits.
So with permitting, for like curb cuts, that would fall, would that be joint since it impacts your curb, but also the right of way?
Yes, so if they want to cut a curb where there's not one cut now, they would coordinate with us, but it's a pretty simple process. They just coordinate with our area office. Being a municipality, they wouldn't even have to do the bonding requirements. We don't even require that of the cities. They just have to coordinate with us so that we're aware that they're doing that in most cases and make sure that we're comfortable with what and how they're proposing.
Is
Mr.
there
Chairman, this is Senator Coleman Madison. I have a question.
Okay, I'll come right back to you, Senator. Is there a list of these that y'all have on website or?
Not readily available. As I said, this has been going since 49, and it's one of those deals where a road may have used to carry a state or U.S. route designation on it years ago and doesn't now. We can start working on pulling one together, Mr. Chairman. It'll take a little while because those move, as you can can well imagine. Think of Tuscaloosa or other places where we've had routes that a state or U.S. route that ran on a particular footprint, and then we move it. We have to go through the process of clearing that up and coordinating with the locals. So there's supposed to be agreements that were required to be signed on those, and there were on many of them, but trying to find agreements from 70 years ago and all can be maybe a bit of a challenge.
Sure. Senator Coleman Madison?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I think the question that you previously asked may have encompassed this. Did you ask for a list of all of those roads that are like that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm particularly interested in the ones in Jefferson County because we have a number of them like that. And part of the issue is who maintains it. It seems like you're saying, my understanding, curb cuts, cutting back brush and limbs and things like that. We always look at a part of 78 or even 79. Well, citizens will call about various things, and we say, well, that's a state highway. But what I'm hearing Mr. Allen say, and correct me if I misunderstood you, is that the city still has that responsibility. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. For the most part, like I said, we will deal with the general resurfacing of that road when we do the larger segment of that road that does not necessarily fall just within the municipal boundaries. But the city, in that case, still maintains and owns the right-of-way. As I said, we're basically just a tenant on the road in that section. And so we maintain from back of curb to back of curb from that standpoint when we do our general resurfacing. But those routine maintenance types issues, for the most part, are still the responsibility of the city. It gets kind of nuanced, Senator, and so it would be dependent on what you're asking. Certain drainage issues we may be involved with, but in many cases we're not. But like I said, it gets kind of nuanced. It depends on what you're asking specifically, but generally, striping, potholes, and those kinds of things are the city's responsibilities, and ours are different than that.
Okay, and you said curb cuts because you said the back of the curb. So is that the city or the state?
So we maintain to the back of the curb. So if they want to cut a curb and put an access, pedestrian access there, they would have to coordinate with our office, our area office, in your case in Birmingham, just to make sure that we're okay with where they're proposing to put it. We may know that there's an issue there or something that would preclude them from doing it, but for the most part, that's a pretty simple, straightforward process where we just work with them and issue them a permit, and they're able to do it.
Okay, one last question, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Go ahead.
Philly Boulevard is now under the state, was under the city. There's a new access road that opened out recently to the farmers market because that's a lot of trucks come in over there. That's an industrial area. The request that I got week before last from the market director, and as much as they still haven't allowed those trucks coming in, the traffic light that was up there at that little narrow turn needs to be now moved down to where the broader entrance is that was wider to accommodate trucks. Who should I talk with about this?
So, Senator, if you do not have contact information for our region engineer up there, Mr. DeJarvis Leonard, I'll be happy to get you that information.
I do. We have a good relationship, so should I talk to him?
Please, yes, ma'am. That would be the best place to start, and anything that he might need from us, he'll call me and let me know. But I know generally about what you're talking about, and I know that there has been there's been an agreement in place for a little while to get that done, but I have not heard anything more on it in several months. So if you would touch base, start your discussions with him, yes, ma'am, and we'll do whatever else we can to help in that regard.
All right, thank you,
thank
Senator.
you so much.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you. Senator Gavan.
Yes, thank you. So just to be clear on this, you said something about, or maybe I misunderstood, I'll use as an example, Governor's Drive in Huntsville. About half of it is also, I believe, Highway 53. We never pay attention to Highway 53 sign because we focus on the bulk of it being US 431. So that, are we talking about that sort of road where that's still a US highway designation or a former US highway designation?
So if it carries any U.S. highway carries also a state route designation on it as well. And so that section that carries, if it just carries US 431, that's State Route 1, it would carry, it would meet the municipal connecting links requirement. So we would have back of curb to back of curb, unless there's some agreement in place. In some cases, some municipalities prefer to work those themselves and do those. So we have had those kind of agreements in place. I don't know if this one is one of them, Senator.
Well, and I guess that's something I need to deal with that because, I mean, before I was even in the legislature, I was asked to basically dedicate that to the highway or, you know, to ALDOT. And then I don't know why that got put on ice. I don't know if that was from ALDOT, from the city or Mutual, but you know, that was, I guess, originally a state project. Obviously, it is a state and federal highway going along there. So I'll speak with our local guy.
Yes, sir.
Representative Gavan.
You mean Senator Gavan? Oh, you said, right, you said Gavan, sorry.
I'm sorry, I meant Wilcox.
All right, thank you, just making sure.
We get confused a lot.
I'm a one-track person.
Now, I'm going to bring this home to my area.
Okay.
Government Boulevard, since Mobile was established in 1702, it's one of the oldest roads in the state, and it also has a designation with, I guess, as a U.S. highway.
It's probably US 90 if I had to get.
It is. It's US 90. Mm-hmm. So I think that goes to McVeigh. So do these change? Does the point of where it changes from one designation to another, where's the municipal link, does that change with where the city limits change to? And how does that, do y'all update that? Do y'all have meetings and discuss that?
Well, we should upgrade an agreement at that point. So the agreement should stipulate it's a municipal connecting link from milepost A to milepost B, and if the city limit changes, then we should update the agreement. But to your point, if that one is in place in the 40s, the agreement, if it was done, was probably done in the 40s or early 50s, and so whether it's been updated or not, I can't tell you off the top of my head, but it would work that way if the city's limits changed, expanded out or shrank back, then at that point, we would become the entity that owns it from the city limits out.
And then when you said from curb to curb, there seems to be some confusion about whether that means underneath for draining. So could you clarify that for me?
Sure. So I'm going to read from you on this just to try to help see if this provides some clarity. Maybe it doesn't. It says, and this is coming out of our internal manuals and guidance that we have as it relates to this. The department will perform routine maintenance on roadway drainage structures which are not part of the municipal storm sewer system, but will assume no responsibility for a general drain problem. So if there's an issue on the road that's drainage related, and that's why I said earlier, we may be involved with it, but if it feeds into the city storm sewer system, it's their responsibility, not ours.
Okay. Well, I mean, it seems like it would all drain, in every case, it would drain into the cities.
In many cases, but in some cases, we may outfall that someplace where it doesn't have to go into or just not being captured by a closed storm sewer system. So that's an option. Not many in urban areas, but we go through a lot of smaller towns as well that don't have to have enclosed drainage. So there are some situations like that. But where you're talking about, it's almost assuredly a closed drainage system. And
right, okay.
Yeah.
Representative Shedd, now, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Representative Shedd.
But on the interstates going through municipalities, this is not, it's a different situation.
Interstates are completely, that's right. Interstates, a little different.
Thank you.
Okay. The last question I have, and I think you touched on this, remind me what you said about the, does annexations affect the limits of these or not? They do.
It should. So, I mean, this is the same situation that the cities and counties got into several years ago, where if a city annexes into a place that has been previously county maintained, they have to take ownership of the roads and bridges inside there. It would work the same way with us. If they annex into an area where it's our road instead of a county-maintained road, they're responsible, and they are taking ownership of the road up to the limits, at city limits at that point.
So, but my question is, if an area is annexed, does that extend DOT's responsibility for that surface?
Yes.
Okay.
Because in most cases, or in any case, before that, we already owned and maintained it anyway, so now it becomes city-maintained right-of-way, and we'd have to go through the steps of transferring that, and then it becomes a municipal connecting link where we only have back of curb to back of curb.
Okay. All right. Any last questions on this item? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here today. Appreciate Mr. Cooper, Tony, everybody, Mr. Harris, everybody being here today. Thank y'all. Okay, going back to the item that I missed previously, the Alabama Transportation Institute Alabama Bridge Project final outings coming up on November 15th. Representative Wilcox, if you don't mind, will you kind of give us an update on that program, and we'll look to the final event.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. For those of y'all that were unable, we have the video that was playing prior to the meeting, and I'm sure we want to thank Jennifer for Jennifer Stallworth, who created those videos of the Gee's Bend Ferry and the Mobile I-10 Bridge and Dauphin Island Ferry. And thank you to the sponsors that provided lunch for those. We do have the final outing will be the covered bridge, and that'll be up in Representative Shedd's neck of the woods. And Vaughn will be finalizing those, but please put November 15th. If you were unable to attend any of the last ones, we want to make sure that you have an invitation. So thank you again for all that came, and then we're developing some ideas for next year, so if you have any ideas on that, Vaughn will also entertain those as well.
Okay.
Thank you. Any questions or comments about the roadshow?
Thank you, Vaughn, for all the coordination and everything that you've done on that. We really appreciate that. I hear someone online.
No, I was saying she'll send us an email about it with the details.
Yes, Vaughn will send out an email as soon as she gets the details ironed out.
Okay. With that, is there anything else that needs to come before the group? All right. Before we adjourn, yes, sir, we're going to go over that right now. We have, at this point, everyone in attendance with the exception of 4. And I'm going to call out those 4 names. So if you're online or you saw them online, just let us know something. The 4 that we do not have in attendance are Representative Marks, Senator Melson, Representative Paramore, and Senator Schofield. Are any of those 4 online? Okay. Well, great participation today. We appreciate everybody being here and all the efforts to make this a smooth meeting. We appreciate that. And with that, we will stand adjourned until January something. And at that point, Representative Wilcox will be the chair. We are dismissed. Thank you.